Welcome to You, Me, Empathy, a safe place for leading with your heart. Hey, thanks for being here. You, Me, Empathy is the official podcast of the Feely Human Collective, a collaborative mental health community designed to empower each of us to grow our capacity for empathy, vulnerability, and emotional wayfinding. Just a friendly reminder that this podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only and is not a substitute for medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. No one is just a silly boy with a feely heart. You can support the show by leaving a review in Apple Podcasts, following us on social media at Yumi Empathy and Feely Human, and joining the Feely Human Collective community at feelyhuman.co. And now your host, Known Wells.
Hello, Feely Humans. Welcome to another episode of You, Me, Empathy. My name is Known Wells, and this is episode 162 on Dismantling Normal with Meaghan Shaffer. Meaghan is a podcaster like myself. Her podcast is actually called Dismantling Normal, and it's wonderful. I was a guest on that show. You should check it out pronto. Meaghan and I, in this episode, talk a lot about dismantling normal and dismantling the heck out of the boxes and the shoulds and the stuff that society and others put on us, really. And there is a whole hell of a lot of that in motherhood, in pregnancy and having children. And we talk a lot about that and the trauma of 7 miscarriages and 8 surgeries that Meaghan went through in pursuit of being a mom. We talk about railing against the binary, and we talk about IVF and this weird problematic notion that there's this intrinsic value in being a mother, or even that you can only know true love if you have a child. We talk about those problematic notions in this chat, and I really enjoyed this conversation with Meaghan, and I think you will as well. Before we get to it, though, I wanted to remind you that You, Me, Empathy is on Patreon. If you go to patreon.com/feelyhuman, you can support me and this podcast and the work I do on an ongoing basis, and you get bonus episodes and other fun stuff. Recently, for the $10 and up, $10 a month and up folks, we had a chat, a resume chat, part 2 of our chat around empathy and advocacy in a divided world. And it was a really wonderful chat with Jen and Suzanne. So you can go and support me at patreon.com/feelyhuman. And wanted to shout out a new Patreon supporter, Kate Flanders. Kate is going to be a guest on this very show soon. We recorded, and it was wonderful, and Kate's wonderful, and her new book is called Adventures in Opting Out. I read it. It's very inspiring. It's wonderful. So check it out, and thanks to Kate for being a supporter. And I also wanted to say that today I'm 19 days sober. That feels good, feels aligned, it feels honoring, and it's also new, and there's some discomfort, and that's okay too. It's all okay. So thank you for all the continued support in this area. I really feel the love, so thank you. And the last thing I wanted to say is, well, 2 things, maybe 3 things. Leave a rating and review of You, Me, Empathy in Apple Podcasts. It really, truly does help out the show. Just takes a minute or 2. So go to Apple Podcasts, search for You, Me, Empathy, and give me 5 stars and let me know why you like the show. I'd love to read your review on the podcast itself. The other thing is, wanted to just mention that there is a new story, specifically a new poem in the Feely Human Journal called To Rise by Amber Mead. If you go to feelyhuman.co/stories, you can check out Amber's beautiful poem. It's wonderful, and I highly recommend you check it out. It's wonderful. And you too can write and share your voice. I'd love to amplify your voice and feature your wonderful, unique, feely voice in the Feely Human Collective journal. So if you want to see what's out there already, go to feelyhuman.co/stories. And thanks for that. The last thing I'll say is, hey, we're in 2021. It's, the era of he who must not be named is over. I'm feeling some hope. I'm feeling some joy. And I hope you're feeling that too. I also hope that we continue as an individual and as a community, as a collective, to get in the muck and get uncomfortable and find ways to shed our biases and look at things in new ways and challenge ourselves in all those ways. When it comes to our own advocacy and activism, and also when it comes to our own mental health and emotional awareness and feelings. So it's all connected. I'm proud of you for the work you've done and continue to do and will continue to do going forward in the future. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being a Feely human. And I will leave you with this wonderful chat with Meaghan Shaffer on episode 162, on Dismantling Normal. Enjoy.
La la la, you, me, empathy, yeah, la la la.
Welcome to You, Me, Empathy, the official podcast of the Feely Human Collective. On this show, we explore the struggles, the triumphs, the brights and the darks we face as humans trying to get by on this wondrous and overwhelming pale blue dot. The intent of You, Me, Empathy is to talk openly, without judgment, about our mental health, our neuroses, our shared anxieties and worries, to create a dialogue that is vulnerable and deeply human and empathetic, and to share that dialogue with others to inspire emotional and cognitive collaboration and insight, so we can, hand in hand, break down the stigma that make us feel shame and guilt for struggling, for feeling our feelings, for being Feely humans. You, Me, Empathy is a safe, friendly space designed to inspire the beauty in each of us. Today, I am grateful to be dismantling my own version of normalcy by being a silly Billy Feely boy who has a deep penchant for fanny packs. And I'm so grateful to be here with the queen of dismantling all things normal, by her powerful self, Meaghan Shaffer. Hello, Meaghan.
Hello. And wow, that is just a really generous introduction. I am just so happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're very welcome. It's good to connect again. I was on your show, and I like that we're swapping things here.
I know. I really enjoyed our conversation and could have kept going. So it's nice that we had something else, another time to chat.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Meaghan, before we get into your story and all of the things, we always start the show with an emotional check-in. How are you feeling, friend?
Oh, I'm going to take a minute because, I'm one of those people that my knee-jerk reaction is always, I'm fine. And I don't often enough stop and really assess the true answer to that question. And when I do, I have to say, I'm feeling so many things all at one time.
Yeah.
Like it's just a time of where it feels like there's just a lot coming at us. Everyone, it's been a crazy year, and it does feel like that's all getting kind of pent up, and kind of boiling a little bit under the surface, if I'm honest.
Yeah. No, I'd imagine a lot of us can relate to that. I certainly do. And I appreciate the honesty because you're right. And it's an important thing to point out, which is the knee-jerk reaction of like, I'm fine, I'm okay. You know, it's so funny because I'm actually I'm trying to write a story. And in it, there's a moment where someone says, you're fine, you're fine.
Mm-hmm.
And we get that. We get that from others. We get that externally. We get that from parents. We get that from culture, you know, saying like, you're fine. You need to squash down those feelings. Your big feelings are not welcome here. They're scary. They're uncomfortable. Yeah. They don't fit in, right? And to honor your big feelings and the mess of them and the, you know, both sides of it and all of it, like, is very beautiful and I think necessary.
And I think the idea that we can have several big feelings all at one time, they coexist. Oh, yeah. They don't, you know, one does not cancel the other.
Yes.
And that has been a hard lesson for me to learn, is just to allow it. Like, yeah, really great things have happened this year. And also some really crappy things have happened.
Yeah. So when you think back on, you know, we're recording this in November 2020. When you think back on the year 2020, what were some of the, you know, the wins for you, the joys?
Well, I did start my podcast, and that was big for me.
What's the name of the podcast for the listeners?
Oh, Dismantling Normal is the name of the podcast, and that was just a big project. Felt like a breath of fresh air to kind of, you know, get out into the world. And my husband and I just recently adopted a baby, so that is like huge joy.
Wow. Congratulations!
Thank you. Yeah.
I mean, especially after what you've gone through, and we'll get into that. Like, what a joy.
Yeah. And I think those are major things, but the ways of watching people come together, you know, the ways that we've gotten around being isolated so that we stay connected, I think are kind of more the everyday joys that I've noticed. I would include that too.
Yeah. I love that. It's all like the socially distanced, you know, backyard parties or whatever and Zooms and things. Yeah. It is definitely a reminder that like we need each other. We need that connection, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I'm feeling some relief. I'm feeling some hope. I'm also feeling immense sadness, you know?
Where do you think that is, like, the core of that's coming from?
Well, I think it initially, I think, comes from, you know, we just elected, you know, it's November. We, you know, just a day ago, you know, Biden and Kamala Harris won, and that's the relief, that's the hope. But the sadness is in, you know, the idea that 70 million people voted for what Trump stands for.
I know.
And, you know, I think a part of it is like, you know, I'm trying to, you know, like this show's about empathy, and I Feely Human's about empathy, and I try to like go there empathetically, and it's been difficult, I think, because I try to like put my mind into their mind and understand like why they would choose that, and maybe I've gone to a place where like, well, maybe he was good for business or something, and then like, well, then I say like, well, why would you ever like honor or prioritize money over like, you know, human life, right? You know, so like, like I don't agree with that. So it's just like I'm sort of ping-ponging in that well of sadness right now.
Yeah, that was definitely hard to watch. And again, you know, last year surprised me, but I could build a weak case for people wanting just a different type of leadership and wanting to make a sharp right turn. And, you know, I didn't really understand it, but I could say, to your point about empathy, I could put myself in somebody else's shoes and I could kind of get there. And this year, after everything that has gone on, I'm just having a really hard time myself to just see those numbers. And I was just surprised.
Yeah. I think what, I mean, let's put aside like the obvious like impacts of that decision, which is like racism, sexism, these things are okay. Like in my mind, like there's implicit, you know, burden there on that decision. The other piece of it is, you know, I think when I think about like mental health and what this show's about and what Feely Human's about, it's about curiosity. It's about leading with our hearts. It's about also discomfort and change and progress, right? Like we're not going to know ourselves. We're not going to like improve our health and our, you know, connection with others if we are not willing to look and be curious and to be willing to like change our minds, right? and shed our biases and these things. And I feel there's a lot of maybe not that happening for folks who are voting for Trump. And maybe that's unfair, and maybe I need to do some more digging, but that part of it is really, you know, like the philosophical pain for me.
You know what I will say though too? I'm just going to call myself out on this. I agree with you. I also have to say I am not working to hear their side of it either, because I have hit a point where, you know, we talked about, to me, it's basic human decency, and that the things you bring up, racism, sexism, ableism, you know, all those things, that whether or not someone who votes for him considers themselves to be that, they were not deal breakers, that they put something else above those things.
Right.
And that, so my emotions have gotten so riled up that I'm not able to sit down with someone who believes differently than me, who voted differently than me, and have a conversation and to open up and say, okay, without judgment, tell me where you're coming from. And I guess I feel like, is it righteous indignation? I don't know. But if I keep feeling that, and we keep not being able to have these conversations and ask those questions, we will not understand. And I can't say I'm at a place to understand yet. I'm not ready, but
Right.
I'm not doing the work to get there either. So I'm just going to call myself out on that, because while I don't think that side is listening, I'm not sure that I can say that I am either.
Right. Well, it's a spectrum, and also we're still reeling, right? You know, we're still kind of in the thick of it, and still trying to make sense of what is not sensical, right? Mm-hmm. What is, you know, not toward human progress, right? You know, I think that's important to recognize. And I don't know, yeah, I'm struggling too. I'll just say that I'm struggling too. I don't think they're like, I hear people, you know, quoting things like Imagine, you know, John Lennon's Imagine, or saying like things like, why can't we all get along? Like, you know, nice, quote unquote, nice sentiments like that. And I think that those are, you know, utopian versions of the world, not based in reality of the fact that we still live in systemic racism, right? The fact that white supremacy is still king in this country. The fact that, you know, immense sexism and misogyny still exists in the world. You know, the fact that, yeah, ableism exists, and, you know, hatred toward people who are gay, right? Like all people who are transgender, you know, all of these things still exist. And I don't want to live in that world. I don't, you know, and so what I keep coming back to is like, okay, what can I control? Like, what can I do? Like,
Mhm.
what is one person can do? And for me, it's try to bring more curiosity, bring more of that critical thinking framework into the world, and hopefully that makes a difference one heart at a time. Like, but also not to like to say, oh, we just agree to disagree. I
Right.
don't think that's the way forward either.
No, I can't get there. I do like the word you use, curiosity. I
Yeah.
can get there. Now I am, because I am legitimately super curious. I mean, there are 70 million people that wanted Trump in office.
Yeah.
And I can get to a place of curiosity, like legitimately, why? What are you afraid of losing? What are you afraid will happen? We make so many of these decisions based on fear. And
Right.
I can work to get to a place of curiosity. I like that word.
Yeah. I think fear is a big driver. And we won't, one more thing on this is it's like,
Mhm.
these ideas and philosophies of just humanity, the things we're talking about are the deep human things that need to be addressed, right? And yet they've become politicized. They become like this right or wrong or black and white or one side or the other thing. And I think that mindset is a part of this issue, is that like you're on one side and you have to believe this. This is like what you believe. And there's just so much, and I know you've sort of battled with this, Meaghan. There's so many kind of shoulds and boxes in
Oh,
that frame of
yeah.
thinking, right?
Hmm.
Where we should just blow all the fucking shit up. And not literally, but just, I just mean like dismantle all of it. Dismantle all of the normalcy. I mean, this is your bread and butter. Dismantle all the normalcy of these boxes, and you're on one side and you have to believe this way, and you're on the other side and you have to believe this way, and you're on this side and this is how your parents did it, and this is how your
Right.
grandparents did it. Fuck all that.
Right.
What do you believe?
Right. When you take time and space and just take a minute to breathe, what is it that you believe? And again, just like the emotions, it's not going to fall all on one side. It's going to be gray. It's not going to be, I believe all this way and I believe all of this way. It's going to be muddy. And I think that's something as humans I can speak for myself. I don't like the muddy, but life is very muddy and you got to kind of just wade through it. With politics up until the last couple of years, I've always just thought as humans, I guess I've always just thought we're all trying to get to the same thing here. We just think there's different ways of getting there. And I think for me, this election, this is the first time I'm like, I don't know if that's the case. I don't know if we're all actually wanting the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's well said. And I like the muddy word. I think we are just little mud monsters trying to figure it out,
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. So let's talk a little bit about your sort of story, Meaghan,
Sure.
and really, I want to get into the impetus. Actually, let's start there. The impetus for creating your podcast, Dismantling Normal, and what I this morning actually listened to your first episode, and you shared very vulnerably and courageously about some loss and mindset shifting that you had. Can you share a little bit about that experience?
Sure. And I would say the muddiness, that whole idea kind of plays into it, in that I was just always very much into, I really thought life would go my way if I did all the right things. And I created a checklist based on, the nodding heads around me. If I was doing something and all the heads around me were nodding, I was like, okay, I'm doing the right thing. Everyone else around me is telling me I'm doing the right thing. And I would
What
just
were some things on this
really.
list?
Okay, here's one. When I was a young girl, I wanted to be a beautician. I mean, like from 9 years old into high school, a very long
Wow.
time. I wanted to cut hair. And I feel like I was just telling this story and I don't remember when, but I'm having deja vu. And now when I look back, maybe you and I talked about this, but when I look back, that's a great thing for me. I love to be done. I love to cross things off the list. I love artistic things. I love talking to people. I love all of these things. But that was not something that was welcomed for whatever reason from the adults in my life. It was, oh no, you're going to college. I'm not saying I regret going to college by any stretch of the imagination, but I sidestepped something. I didn't explore something. I didn't say, okay, but why do I like this so much? Why does this appeal to me so much? And I didn't learn about myself. I just said, oh, that's the wrong thing. Veer right and go to college.
What were some of the things, sorry to interrupt, but I'm curious, like, obviously the message of go to college, like what were some of the other things you were bumping up against in terms of like, okay, I maybe I can't be a beautician and I have to do these things. Like what were there other like rules or things people said?
It was all very implicit. It wasn't, I think one time I had a conversation with my mom. I was very annoyed. I was young for my class. And so when I was making college decisions, and even when I was going off to college, I was only 17. So I remember saying that I was not even old enough to vote. And I was making decisions that would affect the rest of my life. And I didn't feel old enough to do it.
Oh, wow.
And that I didn't want to go. I wanted to do something else. And it wasn't that she flat out said, no, you're going. She looked at me and she said, then what's your plan? But it wasn't like someone said, okay, I'm going to sit down with you and I'm going to make a plan with you and we're going to discover what you want. It was just like, well, then you're on your own to figure this out, but you better figure something out. So it was
That's
kind
so
of like
interesting. Because college is this like, I felt the same thing. It is this like, oh, this is the next thing you do, you know? And I don't think I would have went to college if I didn't get a soccer scholarship, to be honest.
Oh, yeah.
And because I don't know, I've always, and maybe you can relate to this a bit in some aspects. I've always felt like very anarchistic. Like I'm very much like, I don't want to follow your rules. Don't tell me what to do. And school for me has always felt very like, let's put you in a box.
See, and I think whether it was just I'm wired this way, I am very much a rule follower. I think there's this dichotomy like fighting inside of me. Like I would always do things just different enough from everyone else, but I wouldn't do it to where I crossed the line. I would wear the shoes, but I'd do it in a different color or something, just set myself apart. And it was kind of like this inner rebel, but outwardly I could not make myself not follow the rules.
Were you an only child?
No, I'm one of 4.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where are you in the line?
I am the second oldest.
Okay.
I have an older brother, and then I have 2 younger siblings.
Yeah, I am the same in line. Yeah.
Oh,
one
really?
older, 2 younger. Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you, I guess, how are your relationships with your siblings today?
They're good. Yeah. So my older brother and of the 4 of us, 3 of us live relatively close, like all of us within 30 minutes of each other. And then the youngest is actually 12 years younger than me. She lives in Virginia. And it's been, there's been like any family, there's been the pulling apart and coming together and pulling apart and coming together. And we're at a good spot. We've kind of landed at a good spot. We've been here for a while now. So everybody leads very different lives, but everybody's doing well and is happy. So it's just a good point.
That's great. So
Mhm.
how did college, like when you went off to college,
Mhm.
first of all, where did you go? And then how did it feel?
Um, I went to, at the time, it was Northeast Missouri State, but now it's Truman State University. So it's a Missouri State school. I live in Missouri now, too. And again, I was glad that I was going up there. Nobody I knew, well, there was a handful. There was a couple people from my high school. I grew up in a small town of only 11,000 people.
Mm.
And so it fit because it wasn't a huge town, but I didn't really know many people. Like I said, 2 or 3 people going up there. And that's something I would do. I would kind of put myself in situations that were scary and then kind of regret it. Be like, why am I doing this? Why didn't I
Hmm.
just go to Mizzou with everybody else in my high school? Why
Hmm.
didn't I just make it easy on myself? But I always kind of, I just kind of tend to not take the easy road. I kind of always choose the harder road. So
Why have you unpacked that?
I haven't actually. I'm kind of just realizing it right now. I make things a little bit hard on myself.
Because when you said that, I related like immensely, and for me, and I think I'm still unpacking a bit of it, but for me, part of it was I think I deserved pain.
Hmm.
Like that's like one of the sources of like I guess it's one of my limiting beliefs. It's like to believe that I deserve pain. So, I look back on my choices and my experiences as a teenager and young 20 something. And yeah, I did some wild things that were like deeply physically uncomfortable and
Mhm.
emotionally uncomfortable. And as I like look back and try to make sense of some of those decisions, yeah, it was that belief. I think also it was tied to like this idea that I said before, which is like, I don't want to do the thing everyone else is doing.
Mhm.
Like that seems too, and not like I had like presence of mind at the time that like, oh, I'm being punk rock or whatever. It was
Mhm.
just that like, maybe it was insecurity and like not wanting to be around all of the people or whatever, but there's definitely some insecurity and self hate as part of that.
I can relate to I can relate to much of what you just said as well in terms of literally in real time kind of unpacking this idea.
Mm.
Um, I did a lot of psychologically painful things. And when I look back, sometimes it almost seems a little deliberate. Um, and I don't know if it was because I thought I deserved it. Like, if I'm sticking with the college example, I had this idea of what should be. College should be this immersive experience where I don't know anybody and I just show up and I just figure it out. But in terms of, I'm not sure if I thought I deserved pain, but it could be, or that I just thought, well, I can handle it. Bring it on. I'm going to do it this way. I'm going to do it the hard way because that's what I think should happen. And then I'll figure it out.
Hmm. Hmm. Do you think that, like, when you look back on like your younger years as a kid, do you think that you were that way as well then?
Kind of. I'm trying to think of like even playing instruments, right? I would pick, so I picked the viola. Again, not playing the violin because that's what everyone's playing. Not like the viola is that different, let's be honest. It's like a little bit lower. But I picked that instead. It's terrible. I'm terrible and I hate it. But for some reason, I thought I should be playing an instrument. So I did it. And then I moved on into band and I wanted to play the saxophone because, the saxophone is sexy. That's the fun instrument. And the line was too long. And I didn't want to wait in it. And there were no girls in the line for the trombone. So I picked the trombone. What on earth? Why on earth would I pick that instrument? It wasn't fun. I didn't like it. And then I went on to play it for like 6 years.
So interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I played the clarinet for 2 years and hated every moment
Mhm.
of it, but did it. And you played for 6 years.
Yeah,
Do you feel like there's a I don't know, what I'm feeling is like some insecurity. And so, like you make the choices that like, hey, I'm going to make this choice because I'm owning it, right? And
mhm.
there's almost like I don't know, just I'm sensing some insecurity.
I would say you're probably spot on. I I will also say the allure of once I got to high school, because I was going to quit after junior high. And I remember even our principal, our junior high principal, stopped me on the path. I was like on a trail outside the school, said, "Hey, I heard you're going to quit band. Don't do it. Just wait till high school." I mean, I can't tell you how many adults said, "Don't do it." So I did, and the allure of we traveled to competitions, and there was a community with the band, and you met older students that kind of brought you under their wing, and so that was alluring, and that
Mm.
kept me going. And I had good friends that were also doing it, but I'll still tell you, at least 50% of it I hated, at least. And at this point in my life, if I hated something like that, that was a totally voluntary thing, 50% of the time or more, I would quit. But
Yeah,
for whatever reason, to your point about insecurity, I didn't feel that autonomy to do it.
right. Exactly.
I finally did do it right before my senior year. And I mean, I caught hell for it. Again, from teachers and students and feeling like a quitter and all those things. But my senior year, I wanted to go to a football game and I just wanted to watch it. And I finally did it.
Good for you.
Yeah.
What I find so interesting about this is, we hear it all the time, like parents, uh, they get their kids into a sport or something and the kid doesn't want to do it and they just have to do the sport, right? Like there's a lot of that happens. And I think, it just becomes part of us, this like
Mm-hmm.
this thing that we feel like, oh, this is the thing that needs to happen and we're going to do it. And what is beautiful and radical and the opposite of that is to like give people their self-honoring choice of figuring things out on their own and making
Mm-hmm.
choices on their own and having the safety to do that. Like there's such a lack of, I think, feeling of safety in just do the thing, people
Mm-hmm.
telling you to do the thing. But what about what I want to do?
Right.
Like I don't want to play this anymore. Like it
Right.
doesn't feel right. And that was never questioned. That was never like, how are you feeling about this? Like check in, like what's going on?
Yeah. No one ever asked me. And all that, when I said I caught hell, no one said, "Oh, how are you feeling? What's making you make this choice?" It was just, don't do that. That's a bad choice. I also grew up in a family that was very, we were very sports oriented, and again, not overt, but implied is suck it up, suck it up. You
Right.
don't like it, suck it up. You chose this. It's fun. You're having fun. It's not. It wasn't that I wasn't having fun, but I wasn't having as much fun as I should have to devote that much of my life to it.
Right. And we need to honor the muddy.
Mm-hmm.
We need to recognize that like, hey, like maybe I like aspects of this, but let's weigh things here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's so fascinating, and it definitely like brings me back to a lot of moments in childhood for sure. And I think a lot of our listeners can relate to that experience of like just doing the thing because that's what's going on. That's the precedent that's been set, etc.
And, even back to your point about feeling like you deserve pain, I think I had this idea that, well, life is hard. This is hard, and I don't necessarily love it, but that's life. Life is hard. So you just keep at it.
And so I mean, I relate. I felt that immensely, and it also breaks my heart because I think that people still believe that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I still believe it at times. I still get caught up in it. Like, oh, life is suffering, suffer. And there's a certain truth to that. Like, there's a certain truth of like, yeah, in the discomfort is where we can grow, but like it's discomfort that's, maybe like controlled by us, not controlled by us, but chosen by us as opposed to like thrust upon us.
And what about trusting ourselves?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like when you said it's thrust upon us, and then I made this choice or I did this thing, and now I'm here and I'm stuck. Or for me, having all these adults say, "Oh, you shouldn't do that," I didn't trust myself to say, "I think I know what I need better than they do." I said, "Oh, well, all these people are telling me I should. Maybe they know something I don't."
Yeah. No, that's some good insight. I like that. So you're in college. You are, how did college, were you a good student?
Yeah, I was a good student. I stayed there 5 years because why not? Much to the chagrin of my dad. It was like, so how many credits are you graduating with? But I switched majors my junior year, and I took a full 5 years to finish. But I was a good student. I had a lot of fun. I made a lot of good friends that are still friends of mine today. So it was overall a good experience, I would say.
Hmm. And what did you graduate with?
Exercise science with an emphasis on exercise physiology, which I have since done zero things with. I've never done anything with it at all.
I mean, that's what's so interesting about college to me is that like that is the norm, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like the norm seems to be that like you study a thing and you don't do that thing.
Yeah,
Right?
I do agree. Or it morphs so far from where it started as you get different jobs.
Yeah. And that's not to like rail on higher education. My wife, for goodness sake, is a college professor, but I think there's what strikes me as challenging and problematic is this idea that we keep coming to, which is like, this is the path young people need to take, right? And I just the more that we as a culture rail against the shoulds, right?
Mm-hmm.
The better I think we are, the more free we are in our hearts, the more choice and safety and true growth can happen.
Yeah, college prepared me in a lot of ways for life, but it was not about getting a job or starting a career. That is not what it prepared me for in any way.
Right.
I also remember my mom saying she was so jealous and felt like that higher education was wasted on the youth because we didn't really understand our opportunity. And to some degree, I would agree. I would agree with her. I would really devour my classes today where I was enduring them then.
Yeah, I know. I feel that. I feel it to a certain point. I wouldn't want to go back to school. School and I don't know. I like education. I don't like school. I'd say that.
I could understand that. The formality of it. And again, it is really filled with shoulds, which you were just talking about. The school, you should do it this way. You have to have it in by this point. You have to learn it in this method.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Fuck all that. So you experienced some loss, and it's kind of what kind of inspired your podcast, Dismantling Normal. Can you share a little bit about that experience?
Sure. Yes. So in the spirit of checking all of the boxes and doing all of the shoulds, it ended up a point where I was married and we were ready to start a family. And the next thing on the list was have a child. I was a little bit older. I was about 34 when we started trying, and everything that could possibly go wrong did. it wasn't just not easy. It was years of just nightmarish kind of situations. And, everything at every turn was going wrong. We had, in total, I had 7 miscarriages. I've had like 8 surgeries. We went through IVF and it didn't work. So it was just a lot. And in the middle of all that, we took breaks. I had to. I mean, just mentally, I had to kind of take some time and be without trying to incubate a tiny human in my body. And as far as we know, there wasn't anything that was explicitly wrong. My body just was not built to do it. I could get pregnant. I just couldn't carry a pregnancy to term. So,
I mean, 7 miscarriages in 6 years, that's immense loss. That's immense grief and tragedy. What were you telling yourself throughout the process of like, hey, let's try again? How were you, fueling that sort of push forward?
well, when you hear the totality of the situation, all the surgeries and all the losses, it sounds like it all, you forget that it happens slower, even though it's 6 years and even though it's immense loss and that it all sounds crazy. When it's happening real time, you just keep going, and nothing seemed super traumatic all in and of itself at first. Nothing seemed like, it was all weighty, and there was grief and there was loss, whether it was, noted or not. And I would say the first 4 times it was like, well, let's try again. Like, let's try Clomid and we just kept trying tweaking different things. I had a wonderful OB that was helping us. And after I had an ectopic pregnancy where my tube burst and I had to have emergency surgery because I was bleeding internally. And I think that was the 4th loss, if I remember correctly. And my doctor sat on the edge of my bed when I was in the hospital, and I said, I'm tired. I can't keep doing this. And he said, I understand. And I said, I want to go directly to IVF. I don't want to try anything else. That was my way of circumventing the process and just speeding it up a little bit. And then in the middle of that, we moved from St. Louis to California. So I had to get a new doctor, and I had to start trying to find an IVF doctor there where I didn't know anybody and I didn't have the same kind of references that I would have had in St. Louis. And in the middle of those processes, I got pregnant naturally, and it was shocking. It had been a long time since we'd tried naturally to get pregnant, and we weren't really trying at all. And so some of it wasn't my deliberate choice. In fact, twice after that, it was not a deliberate choice. It was just like, oh my gosh, this happened out of the blue, and it surprised us. When we were trying to be more deliberate and have a direct path forward with IVF, twice while trying to get along that path, I got pregnant again. And one was a miscarriage, and another was an ectopic where my tube burst again. My other tube burst. So it wasn't so much of talking myself into it after the first couple of times. It just was nature just kept taking its course. And finally, we got to a point where I said, did IVF, and we did it 3 times. I had to be talked into the 3rd time. And I said, no matter what, I can't do any more of anything. My spirit cannot take it. My mental health cannot take it. My body cannot take it. And it was one of the first times, oddly, as low as it was and as hard as it was and as traumatic as it was the first time I chose myself over everything else. I said, I have to take care of me. I'm not checking another box. And that was a big deal. that felt really different to me. Going back to being autonomous, to just say, this is my body. I'm going to honor it. I'm going to take care of it. And I'm not doing this again. And based on my track record, I was a little afraid I'd go back on it. And I never did. And that felt good. That felt like empowering. Even though it was an ending to something that I had to grieve, and I'm probably still grieving, to be honest. But it was the first time I said, I'm doing this my way. And I had to sit and listen to my doctor. What did he say to me? I said, I'm not doing this again. This is the last time, because he was talking about if it works this time and whatever. And he said, with all due respect, I think that's foolish. And I said, with all due respect, it's not your decision. Let's talk about this transfer and let's go. And he, again, later tried to tell me how this could not possibly be emotionally draining. And I just said, it's not your choice. And I just had to, it was just little things that kept forcing me to stand up for myself and kept forcing me to make that decision over and over again. And that was an odd turning point, because it was low, but it's been major.
Right. Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate your honesty, and I what strikes me as very profound about that is obviously, you're experiencing immense loss, and you still have this, real and valid and beautiful desire to be a mom, right? To have a kid. Like, that is a beautiful thing. So to make the decision, hey, I need to, this, there's something about this path that's not going to work. And to making that decision that had to have been so hard. And I just want to honor you for making that, that's a courageous choice.
Oh, well, it didn't necessarily, I will say, did not feel courageous at the time. It felt like what had to be done.
Sure.
And I will also say, this just wasn't just me. I have a partner who also wanted to have a child and also said, these choices are up to you with your body, and we'll figure it out.
That's nice.
So, it was not just, it was me taking lead on the choices, but there was support there.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. And that's so great to hear. What I am very curious about is, and you've talked a bit about this, is this idea of mom as a value, right? Like being a mother as a value, having, and even going so far as another layer being having a kid naturally as another value, right? And how have you navigated some of that thinking and some of that stigma?
Gosh, this is such a good question. That is hard. There is a message in the world that you don't fully know how to love, or you haven't fully experienced the deepest kind of love unless you have had a child and, to your point, birthed a child at that. And there just came a time where I thought, that can't be true. Who puts these boundaries on us? Who decides the depth of our love and for whom it goes to? They're just, we as humans don't decide that. I just cannot believe that we put boxes around something like love. And I took time after our last loss, and I realized, had I become a mother when I wanted to be, I would have hid behind that role. And I would have hid behind that as the label of love. And I really worked to bring myself to the surface and kind of honor myself and who did I want to be? Aside from being a mom, who is that? Who's the rest of me? Because that's all I was working towards. was being a mom, everything about what I was doing. And that was such a, and there was born the podcast. That was the culmination of figuring all that out. And I tried a lot of things along the way. Between, and there are things I still love doing, but they're just not necessarily visible. Painting, writing, just getting in touch with empathy, your platform, that kind of idea about like, how do I love other humans? How do I bring this out in a way that I don't have to be a mom for it to be present. I don't have to be a mom for my life to be super fulfilled and for me to be a very happy person. And that was, I almost feel like things fell into place when I said, oh, you know what? My life's going to be great, whether I have a child or not. I want to have a child, but I will create a life I love, whether or not that happens.
That's wonderful. That's so wonderful. I'm so thankful and filled with hope for that decision, because there are these, I don't know, archetypes of positions, right? Moms, sisters, brothers, parents, friends, whatever, like business people, politicians, like there are these archetypes of that we hold on to, like, this is what that looks like, right? And no, we should say constantly, we should say no to these archetypes, because that's what reins us in. That's what like makes us feel bad about feeling, right? Or bad about, being vulnerable about our mental illness. Is, it's what makes us feel shamed for, making a fucking decision for your family, your own family, right? Like, so like, I think that's so beautiful. You saying like, no, I'm going to make this love happen. This is the self-honoring, loving choice that I'm going to make. That's great.
Because we're in charge, right? I mean,
we're in charge.
Let's talk about the couples or the women that don't want children.
Exactly.
I mean, the hell that they catch and the things that they are told just astound me. And this is coming from someone who has worked for years to have a child. Hey, if that is not something you want, by all means, you will have a fulfilling, loving life. You cannot tell me that woman will not have a life that she loves just because she doesn't want to have a child.
Yeah, we've gotten that. My partner Jessica and I, we for a time I think we wanted kids, and we gave it the old college try. And it didn't happen, and we're both about 40, and we decided that, like, hey, this is probably not going to happen, and that's okay. But we and throughout over the last 10 years, like from family members, from others, like just the judgment of like, oh, you're not going to have kids, you need to have kids. This is what makes you whole. This is what gives you value, and I think it's just it's real offensive. It's real offensive.
It is. You know what? If we broaden it a little bit, I think it comes from a place actually of people not necessarily empathizing. So sure. I remember when I was single, everyone wanted to set me up because, you can't possibly be happy unless you're dating someone, right?
Right.
But because that was what was making them happy. And so they were feeling like, well, I'm so happy in my partnership. I'm sure she wants that too. Now, whether or not I did doesn't matter in this scenario. It's just that I think that's what the person feels. And to everyone out there who's ever been set up, let's be honest. The only thing anyone's paying attention to is the fact that you're both single when they're putting you together.
Right.
So it's like that. Or I have a child and being a mom has made me so happy. I'm sure you probably want to have a child too, because I feel that happiness, and I assume you would feel like I feel. It's the opposite of empathy. It's not sitting in someone's shoes. It's not saying what brings you joy, what fulfills you, what are you into right now? It's looking from one lens on one side of the story.
Yeah. It's saying, this is the way that I operate. This is the way you should operate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So you went through that experience over the course of 6 years, tremendous loss, surgeries, and you come out of it. Like, where are you now?
Yeah, so we're on the other side of it, and I have to again give credit to my husband who, when we started talking adoption, I there was no way for me to not take the lead in the IVF process. So I was like, "You're the lead on this, buddy. You tell me where I need to show up and what I need to do, and I'll do it." And he did. He ran the show. Throughout the adoption process. And we really took our time. I mean, to the point where our friends and people who had given recommendations for us, and we started out planning to foster, and things just evolved, and job changes and things that we really took a while to get through the process. But once we did, it was very fast. And as many things that went wrong in our family planning process, every single thing about our adoption process fell into place easier than we were even ready for.
Wow.
So I cannot even stress enough. It was a beautiful adoption. It was as smooth as it can go. And it all happened. We found out we were matched. And 8 weeks later, even though we did an out-of-state adoption, we were back home on our doorstep with our son. And it was shocking to both of us. We're like, what just happened?
And what's your son's name?
Eli. Yeah.
And how long has it been since you've had Eli?
He was 5 weeks yesterday.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Wow.
we met him. We had the ability to meet him just 20 minutes after he was born, which was a really incredible experience. I mean, talk about some emotions. It was just, bubbling all over the surface. It was really, really magical.
And how does it feel being a mom in this, your new framework, like this post, maybe it's not post, maybe it's, I guess, how does it feel to be a mom? Let's just say that. I
think I'm still getting used to it. I think it's sometimes still a little surreal, but getting less so. It's as we get into a routine, as we kind of understand him a little bit better and kind of what he needs, and which I've been told is going to change as soon as we think we figured it out. So that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
But
isn't that life though, right?
Fair.
That's what we're talking about here.
Totally fair. But it feels good, and it also feels a little bit. I think my experiences, one, I'm older. Two, I've had all these experiences where I have learned a little bit more about what I want and need. So my husband is very involved. And when he says, I'm going to do this and I'm going to take this off your shoulders and I'm going to give you this time, I say, you got it. I'm out of here. And I take my time and I do my thing. And I don't feel guilty about it. Where if I had become a mom when we started trying, that insecurity would have crept in. The idea that it's got to be me, and the self-sacrifice, the martyrdom, all of that stuff, I truly believe would have played into things where it's not now. It is, wow. I'm fully present. I'm fully into every step of this. I'm all in. And when I have time to myself, I'm taking it. And I'm going to do something that matters to me, even if that's just read a book.
I love that. That's beautiful. I am so happy for you. I think, you guys are going to make amazing parents. I think about like that sometimes, like people having kids, in their 20s, and it like, that's like, I can imagine, like, yeah, like you said, like me being in my 20s, like I had no idea who I was. I didn't even scratch the surface, right?
I
What
had
a,
no idea
right?
how those people survived. I do not know. Both of them, the parents and the children.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
about that all the time. If I had been a 25-year-old having this experience, just how much more stressful it would be.
Yeah. I think, it's interesting because medicine is improving, right? And
Mhm.
women are able to like have kids later, obviously, not everyone, but like just medicine's improving, right? And I feel like, and then, obviously like adoption and IVF and these things are becoming more viable pursuits and
Mhm.
beautiful pursuits to having children, and I hope that means people, partnerships have children later, right? Because of this stuff, because of like all of the emotional intelligence that goes into that
Mhm.
decision and that, insecurity that we're talking about.
Yes. Yes. To be able to know Eli is going to be better off if I take an hour and go read or go work on my podcast or go do something that is really all about me and is pretty self-centered. He's going to be better off when I come back because I will be so thrilled to be there. And I will
Yeah.
have filled myself up. The put your oxygen mask on first kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm glad you mentioned before, like just the other box of being a mom, which is the self-sacrificial martyr
Mhm.
box, right? Burn all of that down, burn it down. And you're
Right.
doing that so beautifully. Good job.
Well, I certainly hope I can hang on to it. We're just a minute into it, but I think about it from the perspective of what do I want my kids to see? How do I want them to treat themselves?
Yes.
And again, going back to that autonomy and the trusting yourself and to say, hey, I need this right now. I'm going to go ahead and do it. And you're going to be okay. And I'll see you when I come back.
Love it. So you mentioned your podcast. I know you're on a bit of a hiatus right now. What is the status of Dismantling Normal?
Yeah, fair question. We will be back in a few weeks. I have episodes like my episode is so close, so ready to go. I kept trying to juggle it and I kept trying to get it finished before Eli arrived and it just wasn't happening. So I wanted to be able to give it a little more attention. So I would say probably just within the next 2 or 3 weeks, probably beginning of December, new episodes should start coming out again. There's about 5 more that will come out before I'd probably take a step back again.
Good. Yeah, honor that. I mean, and no pressure. I was just curious, and this episode is probably out, December, January. So, listeners, go subscribe to Dismantling Normal because I'm on there, but also it's a great podcast.
I know. I
Talking
can't wait
about
to get
good stuff.
our conversation out too. And it's one of those things that I'm trying to figure out how it moves forward.
Sure.
In terms of, do I just do them as I have them? Do I, it's one of those things that I'm still trying to figure out. But yes, new episodes coming soon, December-ish.
When you were talking, I thought of Jen Pasteloff just now, and what, I don't know if you're acquainted with her or friends, but
Yeah, she helped me get the podcast started. Mm-hmm.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, she's wonderful. And I think about her, like I just recorded with her again for my limited run podcast for NAMI. It's okay to feel.
Mm.
And I just think about like, she has a new podcast, right? And like,
Right.
she has a kid also, and like what she does with her generosity, and
Mm-hmm.
how, we talked a lot about like in that It's Okay to Feel episode about like what you're talking about here, like honoring your choices and honoring your energy and honoring your time and remembering that like you can't be all of the things for everyone, you know?
Yeah. Yes. Actually, she is on. She's one of the recorded episodes too. So she'll be coming out on Dismantling Normal as well. But and she was a coach, and I know she's getting back into coaching. So I'm thrilled, and I'm excited for anybody who's has that opportunity with her. But she was just very validating about exactly what you're talking about. Like what gets you motivated? What drives you? What I came to her at a time where I was like, my life is great. And but there's just not enough. Something deeper needs to happen. I need to dig a little deeper, and I needed help. And so I went to her, and then out of that was born the podcast.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. Yeah. Well, let's talk about empathy heroes, Meaghan. So we always wrap up the show talking about our empathy heroes. These are people in our lives who are just deep, feely people. They could even be characters from stories we love. I'm going to go first to give you a moment to think about your empathy hero. My empathy hero, actually heroes this week, are all of the Black folks who voted Biden into office, especially the folks in Georgia and Stacey Abrams being a part of that, you know, blue wave like that. That is very inspiring and wonderful and makes me happy. And so all of those people, Stacey Abrams included, of course, are my empathy heroes this week.
This answer might be a little bit broad, but I'm going to go with my heroes are anyone that stands up and says, this is who I am, and this is what I believe, and this is what I feel, even when it makes other people really uncomfortable. I have a hard time doing that. I have a hard time not being liked and people not agreeing with me and not nodding my head and saying, sure, okay. And anytime somebody is willing to stand up and yell from the rooftops, you know, this is who I love, this is who I'm voting for, these are my values, even when they go against what the people around you feel, or what your followers feel, or if they make somebody really uncomfortable. Doing that is inspiring to me.
Yeah, me too. I love that. And I think just a couple of days ago, maybe yesterday as of this recording, Lisa Congdon, a pal of mine, an artist, she posted something just about that, you know, talking about, I guess the day before she had posted something that was, you know, political and talking about like, you know, how she's hoping for a Biden win. And then I think on, you know, when the sort of the announcement came that he was going to win, she created a post about like, hey, all of you are sort of commenting on the fact that like, I'm like more political now. She's like, I've always been political. Like art is political. I wear my heart on my chest. This is who I am. And, you know, I think that like standing in that is a courageous move.
Very much so. I've seen a lot of people doing it, and you know, I actually just put something out, and it's not even extremely direct, but I was kind of like, well, I'm on pause, and I didn't really put time into posting anything super thoughtful. But I thought, no, I just have to. The more we all are clear about who we are, it breeds it. It breeds more of that. And it doesn't mean that we're all going to agree. But the more that we can all stand in our truth, this world will be better for it.
Indeed. Well, Meaghan, well, first of all, thank you for being a part of the show. Like, I really appreciate it. I'm very excited about Dismantling Normal coming back. I am very happy that you have a little baby Eli in your life. That's very exciting. Where can the listeners connect with you, learn more about the work you're doing?
Well, thank you very much for having me. This has been so fun. So I am at dismantlingnormal.com, or you can find me on Instagram or Facebook. And the handles are both at Dismantling Normal.
Awesome. Well, thank you, friend. I'm grateful for you. I am happy for you. I love that you are standing in your truth and doing so courageously and beautifully. So thank you for that.
Thank you. And thank you for all of your empathy work and making the world more feely, one person at a time. Getting there.
Yeah, getting there. Well, listeners, as I always say, I'm here, you're here, we're here together on this wayward, overwhelming, awe-inspiring, pale blue dot. We have each other. It's you, me, empathy.
La la la. La la.